questions that Kenyans are asking.
Yeah. You both raised issues of education, and at the time, this was last year, there's a statement that the president made in terms of education in the Madaraka Day, the last Madaraka Day. Listen to what he said.
We are redesigning the competence-based education curriculum to make it responsive to our education needs at the point of our social, cultural, and economic development. Finally, the National Open University will obtain its charter in the course of this month, and as we speak, courses are being uploaded for commissioning, and later this year, Kenyans will have the opportunity to go to university from the comfort of their homes online. For long, tertiary education in Kenya has been a privilege for the most fortunate, while university education was the exclusive entitlement of the elite. Not anymore. A month ago, I unveiled a new funding model for higher education that will make the universities and technical training fully inclusive, financially robust, and capable of competing with their peers globally while contributing to our national socio-economic transformation through innovation, research, and development.
Alenga, you're not satisfied with that? He's mentioned three things: CBC responding to our education needs, National Open University, and new funding model for higher education that was supposed to transform the education system.
And Trevor, that's where the big question comes. You know, people are speaking about CBC in a very, ornamental way. This is a game changer system and all that. But then we are not addressing or looking at the inequalities that come with CBC. If my son is asked to go to Google and download pictures of wild animals found in Kenya, that's a click of a second and he has that picture. But a child deep down in the village in Kamagut being asked the same, they first go home and sit with the parents and ask, where is Google? Because we've been told to go to Google. So by the time they figure out where Google is and then they realize, oh, the next cyber cafe is 15 kilometers away. And then to print color, it is 50 shillings a page. And those kids are going to be tested the same examination as those kids in urban centers. I mean, why are we building an inequality that is going to eat into our kids' futures for many years to come? Then if we don't solve those basics, even the curriculum itself, can we have a curriculum that, addresses the inequalities that, are inside our republic? Because you're introducing coding, but you're introducing coding to all the students across country where there are places where there's no internet in the first place, there's no smartphones, there's nothing. So those inequalities in CBC are a very serious issue that needs to be solved. Okay. And even the cost that comes with it for parents and the guardians. Yeah. But that is something we have chosen to ignore, but just push the CBC itself. Yeah. It's a good system. It's a fantastic educational system, but we need to fix the basics. Okay. Once we fix that, then we are all right. But then again, the transitioning from CBC to, remember even right now, the kids who are in grade 8, and are going to grade 9, they have no idea where that is going to happen next. Okay.
Shiko, the reason why I'm playing parts of these conversations that we had in Madaraka, the previous Madaraka days, because those things still happen now. There's still a conversation on taxation, there's still a conversation on education. What do you expect the president to address tomorrow?
Same things, as usual, because it's a script, Trevor. But we know, and I think I'm happy that Arnold is sitting here as a strategist in the party to just say that if you're going to lie to us tomorrow, because I just don't want to repeat the same things and I'm frustrated again, please sit at home, enjoy, rest for once. You don't have to be in a flight, you don't have to travel, just rest and rethink the country and rethink the dream you had when you first decided to vie, if you had any. I sit down here and I'm asking myself, and someone, just allow me to respond to the question on the youth fund also while I'm saying so. When someone says a youth fund was inaccessible, and that is why then we should get rid of it, the question that runs in my head is it the fault of Kenyans that it was inaccessible? Or is it the government that had the responsibility to set up structures that will enable Kenyans to access this fund? So doing away with it, how are we helping even raise the tax that the government is so keen on? Because then you've killed one channel of your tax income, per se. the CBC conversation that has really happened for a long time, I still think that even the government itself does not understand what CBC is supposed to be. And I say that because none of their kids have gone through CBC.
Yeah.
I say that because as a taxpayer, I'm funding their kids to go to free, quality education. Well, our kids get free but useless education. And I say that because I have seen kids right now, as far as ECD, and I know we'll say this is a county thing, now paying 4,000 shillings to access that education half day. Majority of these parents cannot even make that money in a month. Second, I have seen them saying that they're cutting costs on feeding program. Trevor, I know so many kids, including myself, who benefited from that free feeding program to stay in school. We spoke about subsidies.
Though that has been reinstated, but still.
But still, it's a conversation. And with this government, we know they say one thing because people are complaining, and then on another thing, something totally happens at the end of the tunnel. There's the digital content monetization tax, like she mentioned. I fail to understand why we are so keen on taxing people who are probably just sitting in the house and recording their content because they don't have jobs, and some of them don't actually make money from it.
But it's income generated.
Those who don't get should not pay.
No, Arnold, your time is going to come.
Let her finish.
Your time will come.
Yeah.
So, because I need to understand what measures they're going to put to know how many people are making money off these platforms and how many are not, and how this is going to even affect people who are trying to create job spaces for themselves because the government has failed to do so. So I think for me, it's just to say, dear Mr. President and your government, we are tired. And if you really have nothing new to tell us, we already have enough. Sit down, relax, rest as you prepare for your next flight.
Yeah. On the digital tax front, what do you suggest? Because it comes back to the conversation we're having. Is it people paying more or more people paying? Mm-hmm. So previously, these are people who are not in the tax bracket, but they've been brought in. Mm-hmm. Should they not pay taxes completely?
No, I do not have a problem with them paying tax. Yeah. The thing we need to understand is we already have a telecommunication tax that has been there, right? So I'm already paying tax when I buy my airtime. All right. I'm already paying tax when I pay for my Wi-Fi. All right. So already I'm a taxpayer. It does not mean that I'm completely not paying tax. So when we are going to expand this tax bracket to this extent, the conversation we need to start having, because I totally understand there are people who are making millions, and we've seen them on interviews saying, I make this much, all right? Then those qualify to be taxed. All right. And then what structures do we have? Because if KRA is the structure, really doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? Trevor, we already know we're having conversations about the housing levy and the relief that your housing levy is supposed to give you as the relief tax. If you're filing returns, you know KRA does not acknowledge that. But we all know it's being deducted. So maybe we all need to go to school and understand what are the structures that this government is using to collect this money, or are we just collecting for the sake of having numbers with no accountability structures?
All right. Arnold, what is the president going to say? Here, the communication. That's on a light note. So what do you expect the president to address?
The president definitely has a communication team led by Hussein. Yeah. A gift that Citizen TV gave to the Kenya Kwanza administration. But I would love to start from this particular point, that I expect the president to speak to the delivery of the bottom-up economic plan, how the last 2 years has actually worked out. If you look at the bottom-up economic plan, it is actually anchored on Article 43. And Article 43, for me, is the embodiment of the third liberation. The first liberation, of course, was about independence. We will be celebrating Madaraka Day tomorrow. That was for us getting independence. So the second liberation, of course, is in governance and democracy. It's embodied in the Constitution 2010. But Article 43, for me, is the third and final liberation because it's about the cost of living. That's about health, education, social security, name them, literally clean water, all those things. There are about 8 of them if you look at Article 43. So tomorrow being Madaraka Day, I would really expect, and of course, as of right, that the president will be talking about the dividends of Madaraka, the dividends of independence. That is so much about Article 43. But because he is William Ruto, he will be talking about the bottom-up economic plan and how it has actually worked in the last about 20 months. So if you look at the bottom-up economic plan, see the investment we've put and the progress we've made into agriculture, for example. Last year at a time like this, you wouldn't find unga for 200 and you wouldn't even find maize internationally. People were moving around trying to look for milk. There's something that we've actually worked around. We are moving on to the new health program, the SHIF, or you can call it SHIF. Generally, there are 4 things that I expect the president to be talking about because that is the anchor of the bottom-up economic plan. Number 1, easing the cost of living. Number 2, of course, supporting businesses. Number 3 is creating jobs. And number 4, as a consequence of the 3, is improving livelihoods. If you look at all the arguments that we are having, they are not so much data-backed. Look at us. As in, none of us is an educationist. I know that you don't need to be a cook to know a bad meal. But none of us is an educationist. We are trashing CBC, a project that took the best of the minds we have in education. As in, we are trashing it simply by talking about probably Google.
We are criticizing. We are not trashing.
When they spoke, I kept quiet.
Arnold, listen, learn to listen.
Gaps without doing an analysis. You know, people sit here and they trash. As in, Alenga here is so smart, he can trash the whole Ministry of Education. Remember that CBC is a build-up from the 844. That proper education is sat down. But then a very clever young man is sitting on Citizen in the morning and is trashing that.
You don't see the gap.
In that country.
We talked about inequality. That is just one area.
I will answer.
Arnold, don't turn this into a government talk show. I mean, learn to listen to people.
You know, tell Alenga to raise points, not raise passion.
My point is CBC has an inequality. That is my point. That is the point I raised. My point is inequality in CBC.
Can I answer you?
You have had it.
Can I answer you? You spoke about gaps, he's talking about inequalities.
Yes.
A very simple thing. Simple. Using what tool does he have? Simply talking about Google. Because you see, a curriculum is so versatile. I've developed a curriculum before. I am not an educationist, but I've done one. And a curriculum is so versatile that giving an example of Google and using that to talk about gaps.
Is it an
inequality? This is an elitist thinking.
They will always trash citizens' views.
Can you allow me to execute my point?
Is there an inequality, Arnold?
There is no sufficient time and there is no sufficient data to support the argument that there are gaps that have not been dealt with.
There's a lot of sufficiency.
The people seated in here do not have the tools and the means. What we have here are sentiments, and that's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
we are stakeholders in CBC. We are
your
parents.
voice is actually appreciated, but it cannot be necessarily a fact.
Wow.
Because you are not an educationist. You have got a field of play.
I need to be an educationist to know what my son needs in school.
I already say that you don't need to be a cook to know bad
exactly.
But this is the point.
Listen to the challenges we are raising. Don't trash every challenge people are raising.
With your tongue.
Don't force things.
Look at this. Can you move on with my point, please? Can you move on with my point? So this is the issue. Number 1, I've heard Shiko also talk about the youth fund and talking about it being done away. Shiko, look at what we are trying to do. We are doing consolidation of the budget. If you understand the Women Enterprise Fund, if you understand how the Youth Fund works, those are revolving funds. What has not been done is reducing or doing away with the annual top-up that does that. Otherwise, those funds are designed to be self-sustaining. They are sustainable. And over the years, we've actually invested in. So when you pick that one line that as we do consolidation, we are saying, we think that the Women Enterprise Fund is versatile enough to hold its ground this financial year. That is not killing it away. That is not removing it. Unless you do not understand what Youth Fund is or Women Enterprise Fund is and how it works. Otherwise, to come here and say it's being removed, it's actually far from the truth. Also, if you are a consumer of public affairs and news, you will know that even those funds have actually responded to that. So, when news that is actually old has actually been taken care of, and you are seated here on a Friday, something that was addressed probably on Monday, and you still go back to that, it means that we're also not being serious.
It means that your government...
Argue with the argument, not the person.
Finally. Just look at the lynching.
Argue with the argument, not the person.
Raise points.
Argue with the argument.
We'll protect
now. So
argue with the argument,
finally,
not the person.
Yes.
When you are doing a tax policy, generally, you have got about 3 things to look at, because what are taxes designed to do? Number 1, you're looking at redistribution. Number 2, you're looking at the cost. And number 3, you're looking at revenue. So when you sit here, you Just pull out one tax, and then you run with it as a banner.
It's the one that affects you.
Instead of looking at the underpinnings and the explainings. You know, it's fair. Like I told you, I might not like what you say, but I'll defend your right to say it. And that is the same way. You might not like what I am saying, but you just have to listen to it. You also have to defend my right.
No, we will not allow you to lecture us like a government workshop.
That is the same thing.
No.
This is the same thing.
We will not.
This is the same thing. You know, being reactionary does not necessarily mean that you're genuine. Just like I said, just because you are not in UDA does not mean that you are a truth teller. Also, I need to address this, Trevor, probably for the umpteenth time.
Briefly, because we're running out of time.
You know, there's this lie that regime bashing is activism. It's not. There's this lie that
you're digressing from the point. Focus on the debate. Don't tell us, don't apologize, don't take us to government apologetics. Don't take us to government apologetics. We are tired.
If it fits well.
Arnold, speak about issues that Kenyans have. No, we are not. Arnold, we know the direction you are going. We know that
social media.
We are not going to allow you. Arnold wants to turn this show into a lecture by a government, political party, community. No.
You cannot be here.
We will not.
He doesn't want to listen to me.
We will not allow you.
He will have to listen to me.
We will not allow you to lecture us.
Whether he likes it or not, he will listen.
We will not allow you to lecture us.
He will have to.
We will not allow you to lecture us.
My point is this.
You won't.
Regime bashing is not activism. Regime bashing is not being woke. Regime bashing is not intellectualism. Regime bashing is not journalism.
Okay.
You actually must raise a point, not passion.
You will not lecture us, Bana.
What is your point?
No. Yes, raise your point.
I was finalizing. If you are listening,
turning this into a government lecture.
I said that I would be finishing.
No.
As in, get a better word.
We will make it uncomfortable for you.
That is not being uncomfortable.
I will make it uncomfortable for you.
That is why
yes, I am not going to give you that latitude. No.
Listen to me.
I am not going to give you that latitude. Thank you. Fantastic.
That's it. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Daybreak. We're standing by for the next. Coming up in just a bit is which DJ is on the decks. All right. Gigi is here. All right. That's coming up.
Listen to him and